stuff together.
Like, is there music that plays or anything like that? Oh, look at that. That looks real. Oh, Josh did a good job.
All right, here we are. How's it going, Scott?
I'm good, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Good we finally got this together. It's been a long time
We've been
coming.
talking about it forever.
I felt like there was like so many good conversations that we had to just like record ourselves talking and torture everybody else with our inner thoughts and cynicism on this stuff.
Well, I think Josh had a good idea of putting it live. I think that was really smart.
Yeah, we'll see how this works.
So
I have no idea if this is actually like live or if
is it really?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
I didn't even tell my mom. So like the normal person that watches my podcast isn't here. Usually I at least get like that mom. Yeah, I usually get like at least like one view from mom. She cheers me on, leaves comments and such.
Yeah, one reliable viewer. But yeah, I mean, we had a lot of really good conversations around, sales and how it's, not what it was a few years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So yeah, just for everybody listening, Scott and I decided to start a podcast called We're Not on Easy Mode Anymore, which I think is a pretty apt description of what's happening in the sales world today.
Well, it's definitely not on easy mode. And I was just talking to a buddy of mine this morning about, and I realize that's cliche to say in every podcast, and I was just like talking to somebody, but like, how as a job, like, we've kind of taken that same message from 25, 30 years ago that I was using at WebEx back in 1999 and have just kind of kept recycling it and not making the message any better. But what we've been doing is just making the message more. So like, I was thinking this morning, Rob, like when we were at WebEx, we had this like crazy piece of software that would do mass email blasts for us, but we didn't have any way to verify what the email was. So we had we created a spreadsheet with a macro that would have like Robert.Moseley at GTM, Robert at, and like all of these different URLs. Like it was kind of,
like
crazy.
The old mail merge function.
Yeah, exactly. And we just would blast the shit out of people. Am I allowed to curse on our podcast?
I think so. I don't give a shit.
All right, fuck it, cool. All right, yeah, we would just blast the shit out of people, and like that's how we got WebEx off the ground. But then just people started taking that same messaging and putting that into outreach and such, and not really updating the messaging, not updating any of the personalization, and I think we're starting to see a lot of that now. But it's still, if you're still using that same message from 25 years ago, you're definitely trying to play on hard mode.
Well, do you think? I mean, okay, so here's my thing. Does personalization and like outreach actually work? Because our previous company, Copy AI, like we bet big, like hypothesis that like if only the emails that we sent were more personalized and like mentioned, the college they went to, or some famous bus route in the city they lived in, or some stupid shit like that, like that we'll get more replies and we'll book more meetings. And we tried over and over so many different strategies. I thought the hypothesis was solid, but like when you just compare against just like a standard hard-coded template in outreach, sales loft, like what Apollo, whatever, like there was never a lift in reply rate or meetings booked.
Wow, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that, and I think that personalization has to be something that people care about too, right? Like I get people that like I had the most horrible college experience, like. Academically, like partying wise, it was a blast, but like academically, it was not a good experience for me. And I ended up dropping out, and I still get people to this day being like, "Oh, hey, I went to Westchester too," and I'm like, "I don't fucking give a shit, dude." Like, the fact that I went to some college for a couple of years that you chose to go to along 50,000 kids a year, like, I really don't care. So like that level of personalization doesn't resonate at all. I respond 100%, and I'm going to give away my cheat code here. I respond to almost 100% of people that reach out and ask me about my golf game.
All right. So if anybody wants to sell to Scott, you know how to get it. Hopefully there's some SDRs.
Scott also has no money in their job, so don't bother trying to sell to me. But like I will respond to like anybody that mentions that. I'll respond to anybody that's like, "Oh, hey, I'm working on, I saw you were at Yahoo for 5 years and you did M&A there. Like, can you help me walk through the process of like what it's like to be acquired at a large company?" 100%. I'll respond to that. But like if it's like super generic, dear Scott, I'm going to help you get more leads. Dear Scott, like,
yeah, I'm so inspired by your background.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like that generic stuff, like nobody's going to respond to that. And that's what people aren't like taking their time. Like some people who are really good at taking that extra 10 or 15 minutes, but like that doesn't really scale either. Like, and like we're at this like interesting crossroads where like your CRO wants you to reach out and touch 250 people a day using Orem, but they also want you to do this mass personalization that takes 15 to 30 minutes to actually get it right.
Yeah.
Like that's a hard
I don't
line
think like
for anybody to walk.
I don't think AI is like super good at like actual personalization that would work. But I think there's a larger problem here in general where it's just like it doesn't even matter what the hell the message says that lands in like my InMail or my inbox, or if somebody tries to call me, they could have like the best call script like right in front of them that they're gonna read off to me. I don't read any of that stuff. I mean, like my LinkedIn like messages are completely full. Like every day there's like 50 to 100, and like my inbox is the same thing. Like most of them go spam at this point. But I mean, I never answer a call that I don't recognize. Unless they happen to catch me, I'm like waiting for a call from like the dentist or like the auto shop or something like that, and like they get me at the right time. But like how much does it even matter if like the message isn't even making its way to the person?
Do you think that is the fault of the SDR leader, sales leader, whomever, or is that the actual fault of the CEO of the company who can't create a message that differentiates enough? And I'll give you a good example. Like I remember I was running sales for a company called Retention Science. This is like 8 or 9 years ago, and I went to Etail West up in Seattle. And literally every company was saying like, oh, we use some sexy algorithm to get more customers and make your customers more sticky and drive more revenue. And you could literally, Robert, walk around from booth to booth to booth to booth to booth. 99% of them were saying the exact same thing. And I think like there's a hard challenge when you have so many companies out there. How do you differentiate as a founder? Like,
well, I think
that's the question for you. Like,
yeah, those are two different problems, I think, right? Like, I think like booth to booth to booth to booth, right? You're there, that's in person. I think that stuff works. And then that really is just like a messaging issue, right? Like how do you stick out from the crowd? Like larger meta level, it's like I think what killed all the other like the easy channels, it's this podcast is called We're Not on Easy Mode Anymore. Like easy mode was when you got in early and you adopted tools like Outreach and Sales Loft, and everybody wasn't doing those things. So like if you were early on, that strategy worked, right? Like people's inboxes weren't flooded yet. Once those got flooded, then people started picking up phones, and that you weren't getting 100 spam calls a day. So you'd pick up sometimes, and then then it transitioned into LinkedIn messages, and then that channel got flooded, and then now everything is flooded, and it's just a pure numbers game. And these like AI, like SDR type tools, I feel it's just like made it even worse. But I mean, I think like two different things. It's like the channel that you get the message out. I think like a booth at a conference is actually, we're probably going to end up going back to doing more and more of that stuff. Cause I think like in-person interaction, then it is a messaging thing. Like, is your messaging strategy correct? Like, does it resonate? Do you actually understand your ICPs? Like, do you understand what drives them? Do you understand the value that they would find in your solution? And does that messaging align with that? And I think like a perfect example of this was a previous company I was at. We didn't get any meetings booked through marketing. There was nothing inbound, nothing at all. Like they'd have MQLs, but they were like a joke. They just didn't work. But the SDR team was booking meetings left and right. Right? They had like a really, really good strategy. And like if you look, it was a messaging thing. It was 100% a messaging thing. On the marketing site, like we were selling to like IT service desk managers, right? On the marketing site, they're talking about like, employee satisfaction and like Worktopia and stuff like this. But if you actually talk to IT services managers, who are the ones with budget who are buying our tool, they didn't care about that. They wanted like, hey, I'm drowning in tickets, and like my like IT like service desk people, they don't last very long. And so there's constant churn, and it's really, really hard to keep up just with the ticket volume. So they were more about like ticket abatement. Like if you guys can resolve some of these tickets and lessen the load. SDRs understood that. So they were able to book a ton of meetings, and marketing is talking about this like pie in the sky, like better probably tailored for like a VC type of message than like an actual buyer.
Yeah, I get. So first of all, I think that's really smart on your SDR leader, your sales leader, whoever like said, "Hey, this is the messaging that we're going to go down." I guess where I was going with the trade shows. And by the way, I've got my buddy Jeff Rogers, who you may know. Jeff told me last week he books 100% of his meetings at conferences and trade shows and events, which I thought was like an interesting stat. And for an introvert like me, that makes it really interesting as I think about like going out and driving revenue. I guess where I was going is like this year, 2025, there were 14,000 companies on that like MarTech landscape. And if you go back like even 10 years ago, there was only like 150 of them there. So you've got 14,000 companies that are kind of all saying the exact same thing. And it's just kind of this battle. Like, how do you train your team to say, just like what you were talking about now, like, this is the messaging that's coming out from marketing. And if you try that, like it may or may not work. But if you're not willing to evolve it and get to something that actually does book the meetings, like you're going to be dead in the water.
Yeah. And I think that's another problem. It's like oftentimes these like different teams are just completely siloed and they don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
Like really, it should have been like, hey, we're booking all our meetings for SDRs. Like, what are you guys doing? Who are you reaching out to? What are you reaching out with? Like, what's landing? And then adopt that way. But I think most companies are set up in a way where like those teams, like if they talk at all, they're probably like competitive almost, And there's just like not a whole lot of like pulling, like rowing in the same direction going on.
So if you can't, I guess like if you're a sales leader and you're sitting there and you're kind of taking the message, let's use the example you were just talking about. If you're a sales leader and you're just kind of feeding whatever marketing tells you to feed to the SDRs who are writing up the messaging for you, and that SDR organization is getting less and less effective, at what point do you start to go like, oh man, like we're going to have to make some like really radical change here. We're either going to have to tell the marketing team to fuck right off and we're not going to use their messaging because I got to go get this, or we can just wind down this SDR team. And if you look at that across, it's kind of a scary proposition. Like, the thing that as you and I have talked about extensively, Robert, like I have some really strong opinions about SDRs and where SDRs are going. I do think like one of like the most, I think like one of the more valuable things that they bring is they're the feeder system for your sales organization in a lot of cases. And you bring on these people and you kind of get them used to rejection and you get the use of, pitching the product and getting used to just picking up the phone and being in front of customers. And then like you should graduate into a sales role. At Cloudinary where you and I met, like I just didn't have, like I had a lot more SDRs than I had salespeople and I wasn't able to promote them. So like they kind of got stuck in this like SDR limbo for far too long because we just, we didn't have the heads to promote them into that role. So I do worry that like, between AI.
Shouldn't that, quick question on that, because that's really interesting. Like, shouldn't the math work out that if like the SDR role is really working and generating a bunch of opportunities, that would naturally lead to like the more demand for salespeople to handle all the opportunities that are being generated?
In theory, yes, but in practice, no, right? There's a finite number of opportunities that a seller can have. Let's say a seller can generate, a seller can do 20 deals in a quarter. That means that they're working at any given point, call it 60 deals, right? It's a lot of transactions. To get an SDR to generate 60 opportunities a quarter is that's a tough ask. Yeah, exactly. I think like, once in a while I'll see on Reddit or something where people are like, oh yeah, like I'm an SDR and I'm generating 40 opportunities a month. And I'm like, how on earth is that possible? And maybe it is, and I'm just ignorant to it. But I do think like, so then what we ended up doing was we ended up going, okay, like let's hire 2 SDRs per seller. And then that gets you to your, kind of 30 opportunities that the SDRs are going to generate a quarter. Another 20 of them are going to come from marketing. Another 10 of them are going to come from partners. And if you're a good sales rep that wants to make a lot of money, you probably go out and you find out you on your own. And that's how I've always structured the organization is, SDRs will come up with some, sellers need to come up with some, marketing will come up with some, partners need to come up with some. And you just have to get that buy-in from your leadership team to figure out like, okay, what is that balance? And if that, I'm kind of going off tangent here, if that balance goes a little bit sideways, then, who makes up for it at that point? Like if marketing loses budget and can only generate, 50% of the opportunities that they've committed to, well, you got to put some pressure on the SDRs, you got to put pressure on partners, and more importantly, you got to put pressure on the sales team.
Yeah. Yeah. So how much, okay, so we've talked about this extensively too. Like, is the SDR role?
That was a total tangent that I just went down. Sorry about that.
No, it wasn't at all. I thought that was spot on. But I mean, it does flow into what we've talked about frequently. Like, is the SDR role dead? Right? Like, does that, like, what does it become?
I mean, if you believe in, what's Challenger say? Like, when a buyer reaches out to you, they've, like 60 or 70% of the way through their process.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that's 100% true, and we all believe into that and we buy that math, then it's like, why wouldn't you invest more in, take the $1 million that you're spending on your 10 SDRs and put that into marketing to generate more awareness and get people thinking about it so that they become inbound leads. And then, you could probably have AI answer those first couple of questions for you before they transfer you over to a salesperson. Or fuck, man, just like let the salesperson take the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I think like there's a billion like AI SDR type tools out there, right?
Yeah.
So if like those can like manage basically at the same level, the traditional outreach type stuff. Like, I don't know if you should just like quit doing that entirely. Like, maybe you do get like a couple meetings out of it still, but they still do have to do it or want to do it. But I mean, it's a commodity at this point. So like, does that just become part of like the AE's job? It's just like the thing that they manage as opposed to having a whole separate role for it?
I think so. I think that, this is, I do think that SDRs have done a disservice to salespeople over the last 12 or 15 years, maybe even a little bit longer, in that I think a lot of salespeople have gotten used to not having to do their own outbound prospecting. I think you've got a lot of salespeople out there that are just kind of used to like, oh, I'm going to go yell at Doris, my SDR, and she needs to get me more opportunities. It's like, no, dude, like you're the AE, like you have the quota. Like it's not Doris's, like it's kind of Doris's job to get you some leads, but like your head's on the line if you don't make the number. So therefore, it's like, but if I'm an AE that I became an AE in 2010, 2015, I've never had to pick up the phone and make cold calls in 9 out of 10 times. I think that the really good ones, the ones who really truly like money, figure that out and got good at it. But for the most part, I think you've got a lot of like, if you're like, hey, I need you to go make 50 phone calls a day. As an AE, you're going to be like scared shitless of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. I mean, this is the thing. Like, I've met some really, really good SDRs that, like, there's one that I worked with at MoveWorks where I remember like listening, because we would like record the SDR calls, not the first one. The guy's like, how the fuck did you get my number? Like, do not call me again. And then 3 minutes later, he booked the meeting. It was absolutely incredible to watch. So there is,
they're definitely out there.
Something to that. I'm just wondering, like, okay, so where do you spend your time? So the SDR role like doesn't die. It certainly like evolves, right? Like, you're not spending time doing like setting up sequences and like manually like writing emails and stuff like that anymore. But like, what do you spend your time on? Like, what's the opportunity cost for making 200 phone calls a day and one person picks up and they tell you to F off, versus like spending that time doing something else? Maybe like getting out, going to events, doing stuff. Do you become more of like a field marketer almost?
Yeah. The booth babe.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I think like, and to your point, like there is a lot there. I think like there's also, I'm a big believer in trying to uncover latent pain. I think that when you've got those people who are like 60, 70% of the way to you, they understand like their current pain. They understand like, oh, I've got a headache, I need an Advil. And rather than getting to the root cause so they're just like looking for the Advil, rather than, and like a good SDR, a good salesperson is going to uncover, well, let's talk about it. Before we start giving you Advil, like, let's talk about like, why do you have a headache? Do you have a headache because you're stressed? Do you have a headache because you got a brain tumor? Do you have a headache because your neighbor's playing music too loud? The dog is barking?
Yeah.
Like, let's really dig into that and fix that root cause. And I think like that's where good salespeople and good SDRs will be able to thrive. Like it'll be that SDR that spends an hour digging into a company to figure out, okay, well, what is the latent pain that they have? Like they've already, I'm seeing them on Bombora or Sixth Sense or whatever. Like they've already got like some kind of interest in what we do. Can I go find like 5 or 6 other pains that they probably have to really uncover that and add value there?
Yeah, that's like challenger sale, right?
I'm a big believer in challenger sale, but it's like the challenger sale, like you have to be so tactful so that you don't sound like a complete asshole. Like if I just called the blue and I was like, "Hey, Robert, let me tell you like all the bad things that GTM Engine is doing today," you would just hang up on me immediately. So you got to be like a little bit more like, and I've been that guy. Like I've gone into like when I was like learning how to do challenger sale, and I've been that guy going into these meetings and just be like, "Let me tell you everything you're doing that's wrong, Robert." You get thrown out in your ear immediately. It's awesome. But you evolve there. But I do think like, how do you do that? And I think like, the point that you made, if you've got an SDR and they're literally just like sitting there, like, I'm going to like let Orem do all my work, and I'm going to let outreach do all my work, and I'm going to let AI do all my work. Like now you're just paying this person like to sit there and click buttons. And, I've got a company in the Philippines that's doing that for me for $2 an hour. Like I don't need to pay an SDR in San Francisco $100,000 a year to do that.
I mean, the whole promise of AI, and I don't know if like there's been many things that have delivered on this, is to like remove those button clicking tasks from you entirely.
Yeah.
And like the work that you like, if you can automate like a bulk of work, right, then you can focus on other more high value stuff. I know that sounds just like super lame and high level, but like truly that's like the value of AI, right? Instead of like doing all these things. So then what do you spend your time on?
Yeah.
Right? I think that's sort of like, are people evolving fast enough to actually like figure that out, or are they just sitting there monitoring the AI system that's doing its work? Are they going out there and like using the time that they've been given back to do better things?
I mean, I guess like this is maybe a rhetorical question, but like if you're a sales guy, would you rather have 10 really high quality opportunities that have a 90% chance of closing, or would you rather have 40 opportunities that have a 20% chance of closing?
Yeah, I mean, that's 9 closed deals versus 8, right? So I'd take the 10 with 90%.
Yeah, exactly. And significantly less work. Like you become like laser focused. So then the question becomes like, all right, how do we get you those 9 highly qualified, probably guaranteed to close opportunities, and then you as a seller go in there and become more of like and I'm thinking like really high end enterprise stuff, Robert. This is very different from like a more transactional type of deal, but like you have to become that more of like a project manager than you are like the finger gun shooting.
Yeah.
What do I have to do to get you in this car today? Kind of thing. I have one of the guys that used to work for me at Sovos. He's kind of a maniac when it comes to project management. Like he sits down with his clients, he sits down with the internal team, and he puts together a full-on project plan with Gantt charts and assigns stuff out, and these emails going everywhere, and who has to do stuff, and he's holding people accountable for deliverables, and that's how he gets his deals done. And he's really, really good, and he does big, massive deals. And I think that's, I in a lot of ways, I think that's where we're going with this. Is you just become more of like a project leader, like an external project leader that's helping get deals done. Then I'm going to take you to the steak dinner and we'll have some martinis. And
I mean, that's how I've always seen like the strong AEs behave in the first place, right? I think like they understand what their role actually is. And like, I'd say even with like challenger sale, which is probably like the most like salesy, like of the methodologies, it's still that like you're trying to understand like what their motivations are, but it's not like then you convince them of stuff. Like you're not like doing like actual selling. And I think like the way that like people think about selling, right? Like you're just putting like the right things in front of them. You're putting the right people in front of them that can like, talk to like a deeper level, for instance. You're introducing them to other people that have had similar pain. And it's like very much like the project management type of thing that you talk about. And I think
what
like too,
about
like if
SDRs
you're at,
becoming? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go for it. You finish your thought. I was going to
I was
talk
going
in a
to.
completely different direction.
I was. Oh, I was going to ask. What are your thoughts on SDRs becoming more like social selling people, where they're writing a ton of content, they're reaching out to the right people, they're not just like spamming people,
Yeah.
but they're being really thoughtful in it, and you kind of go away from, hey, your job is to make 100 cold calls a day, but your job is to write like,
Yeah.
two or three high quality posts every single day. Your job is to go leave comments on these people's posts to like
Yeah.
get them engaged and go from there.
Well, I think that works better, right? I mean, that's what's working for us. I think it's exactly that.
Yeah.
It's the social selling thing. It's you have to like remove. So like SDR, like people think of it as like some. So some teams have SDR in marketing. Some teams have SDR under sales. Like I think it belongs more in marketing. It's just kind of like more like one-to-one marketing than anything. But I think like we think of them as like very, very close to the SQL, right? It's like
Yeah.
they call somebody up, they book a meeting, they're an SQL, and in a situation where like you really that's hard to do. Like it's just like objectively much harder to do nowadays. Like you can't book a meeting on an email. It's hard. Like you do, but it's like far less likely to happen. It's harder to book a meeting over a call, LinkedIn message, etc. Then it becomes okay, you move up. You move up the funnel. Then it becomes more about like your original thing, like the messaging. Okay, well, how do you reach people? Like where are your ICPs? Like where do they live? Where do they discuss things? Um, for us it's LinkedIn, right? So it's a building
Mm-hmm.
audience is one thing. Like who are the people that we want to hear our message? How do we do that in like a non-intrusive way? And then just like they start to see us, they start to see what we're saying. Like we understand their ICP, and therefore we know that like a lot of the content that we're writing is going to be pain points that they have. They're like, hey, you know what? Like, yeah, my arm does hurt. I should take an Advil. And I think that's like it's harder to measure the impact of that. So I think you kind of got to make a leap of faith that like it's very hard to quantify. Oh, this person saw, Brenda's LinkedIn post, 2 months ago, and that's like what really kicked this whole thing off. You're not going to be able to measure that. So that's the hard part of that. It's like
Yeah.
when you think about like, when you're making decisions on where you put budget, it's very easy to put money into the thing that, if you dial 1,000 times, that's going to book you, 3 meetings or something like that. Sure. Like I know what my return on that investment is going to be. Now that may not be the most efficient thing, but it's hard for me to measure and have like evidence otherwise. Right.
Yeah. It
I
almost
think it's a good
becomes,
idea. It's hard, right? You got to take a leap of faith.
it's, and does it, I'm going to sound like such an old, does it need to be measured, or can you measure it based or is it measured like advertising is measured? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
hey, Rob the
Awareness.
SDR wrote these 3 posts. He connected to all of these people. Like he built these relationships up. And at the end of
Yeah.
the year, some of it turned into business. Like I don't know why people buy
Yeah.
billboards on the side of, I mean, I know why people buy billboards on the side of 101, but like, it doesn't seem like a great use of funds. People continue to do it every single month. New billboards are popping up, and
Yeah. Well, and this is why I think like the
how do you
SDR
measure that?
role. Yeah. I mean, you can measure, say on like LinkedIn, how many followers
Yeah.
did we add to like our page? How many engagements did we get with like different
Yeah.
posts? Stuff like that, right? Like there's some measurement that you can do. It's very, very hard to like draw that line between, a like on a post 2 months ago and then, a closed one deal. But I mean, you have to do it. I mean, and the whole thing is,
Yeah.
and I think this is why like the traditional channels are
There's a
dead.
bit,
It's like,
there's a business there.
oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there probably are businesses out there that at least claim to have this problem, solved or somewhat solved.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them, but if you're out there and you're hearing me talk right now, reach out to me because that would be something I'd be interested in.
How are you?
I
How
think
are you
like
guys
this,
doing it now? Like you're doing a lot of AI research. You're doing the scoring.
yeah,
Like how are you guys thinking about this? Because I feel
yeah. I
like
mean,
what you've built, Robert, is like on the very cutting edge of all of this, and it's exciting.
well, okay, so it's very easy now to like build a list of companies that you want to sell to, right? Like we know
Yeah.
who we want to sell to. We know who would like find value in our tool, and that part's easy, right? It's like building a list and like finding contacts that match our ICP at these companies that we want to sell to. Like that's been a solved problem for a long time, right? Like the hard part, it's not even necessarily messaging. Like you can hit somebody with the right message at the wrong time and it's going to fall flat, right?
Yeah,
And they might
100%.
put you in spam and you've lost your chance to message that person, right? It's like, it's all about timing. Like, how do you find the right time? Because just because like a company could find a lot of value in your product doesn't mean that that's a priority for them right now, or that all the ingredients have come together to like make this pain like a top priority, right? The pain that you solve. So you got to find ways to measure that. Right? It's like basically what we do is, we have this list of accounts that we want to sell to. Again, easy. That's not hard. There's no special sauce to what we do there. It's like, give me companies like in these regions that have this amount of revenue and this number of employees in these industries, right? Simple. But then it's like one thing that AI enables is just like, okay, well, research, right? Like, what are the things that we would look for in a company that would be going on in a place where like our problem is particularly painful for them, right? So then like basically what we'll do is we'll set up these research signals and then we run them, right? We run them on a cadence. So, it could be every week, every 2 weeks, we just do every month because things don't change really that fast. We'll look for things like positive signals, like did they just like have a good fundraising round? Did they have good, they land new customers? Are they hiring for people in sales roles? That obviously means the go-to-market team is growing, which means there's more need for us, more need to like onboard people quicker. Do they have any announced AI initiatives? Companies are announcing this stuff all the time because they want to seem like leading edge. Okay, so then of those things that they're announcing, what are they trying to do? And have they announced any ROI around any of the AI initiatives that they've had? Right, a lot of companies will post these things, and that's a good signal. If I've put $1 into a machine and gotten $2 back, like what am I going to do? I'm going to continue to shovel dollars into the machine, right? So like, the theory there is like if they've already found ROI in AI, they would find, they'd be more apt to invest in us. Leadership changes, all the kind of standard stuff, right? But so the company that we want to sell to like might not rank very high and like signal intent on any of those things right now. In a month though, maybe they hire a new CRO, maybe they announced ROI on this initiative that they had, maybe they opened up 10 new headcount, maybe they announced a new office expansion in EMEA or whatever, right? It could be any of these things. Then all of a sudden they become a really good fit for us, right? Now's the time to go after them. And that's worked really well for us. And I think like that the timing part of that equation has been like traditionally like really, really hard to get right. I don't think anybody does it. Like you build a list.
Are you soft touching them along the way? And are you scoring it, or you're like, oh, these guys are a 1, but they're trending towards a 9, and then you're soft touching them to kind of build them up, so that way when they hit 9, you're like, oh, now is like the time to really go in hard on the good message.
Well, like what you were saying, right? I mean, the SDR role, like basically we have automated. We use an AI SDR. I didn't really consider them an AI SDR. I think they market themselves this way, but I don't think of them this way. It's a company called Topo. But we have these like target accounts, and we have.
Oh, they've been doing it forever. They're like the OG AI.
Actually, you might be thinking of someone else. I think they were like YC 23 or something like that. They're relatively. They take a really interesting approach though, and like for us, it's more about like audience building. Like, okay, we know we want to sell to, let's say, like Optimizely or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, okay, maybe now it's not the right time to sell to Optimizely. Like I'm just making stuff up. This isn't the case with Optimizely.
Sure. Yeah. No.
Let's say they had a down quarter and like their headcount decreased to 20%. Okay, well, probably not the best time to go in. They're going to be like, listen, like we have bigger problems right now. But once they start to turn that ship around, then that would be time. If we start to see more like. But we can start to build awareness right now. We know we want to sell to them eventually. Okay, well, what if we just invite them to follow our LinkedIn page? What if we just like connect with them on LinkedIn? Like really, really low to invite them to a webinar, like whatever, not like direct, like, hey, I noticed that you're blah, blah, blah. Do you have 15 minutes this week? That shit doesn't work, right? But if you're just like, hey, I thought you might find this interesting given your role. Here's a webinar we're doing, on like how RevOps is evolving, Mr. Global leader of RevOps. We get people to attend, right? Now, then you can start to build inbound. And I think like getting like the challenger thing is the whole thing is like if somebody comes inbound, they're 60, 70% the way there. Like how do you get them 60%, 70% the way there, right? So they do come inbound, And I think that's like the combination of like marketing, and this is where I think like SDR will like probably does fit far more in like the Venn diagram, like on the
Yeah,
marketing side than the sales side, because I think that's what that becomes. That's what you should do.
I think that's probably right. Like I've always felt that if your SDRs are more outbound than they are inbound, they should roll up to the sales team. But if they're more inbound than they are outbound, they should roll up to marketing. But
Yeah,
if we believe that the overall market is going towards being much more marketing driven, because I got to find these people who are at 25 or 30% and drive them through these soft touches to get them to the 60 or 70%, like that's going to be a marketing and SDR job. And it's got to be soft
yeah,
touches, not, hey Rob, let's book a meeting right now. Do you got a headache? I've got some Advil. You want to sit down? I can give you some
yeah,
Advil right now. If you
yeah.
want to meet, I'll give you some
Yeah, it's
Advil.
like, dude, you just connected with me like 3 seconds ago.
Yeah,
You're already bombarding
right.
me with like media requests.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't have a headache right now. Like, well, like keep trying.
yeah, yeah. That part is like that's the part you got to figure out, right? Like the timing part. Then you also got to figure out like okay, like another thing that we'll do that we found like really successful. I mean, like we're in San Francisco. The HubSpot outbound conference was here. Dreamforce was here. Obviously, we just attended those, right?
Yeah,
Not because like we didn't buy a booth. We only have the budget for $500,000 like giant booth at Dreamforce, but we do have $1,000 for an attendee badge, and we do know that everybody that has budget for those $500,000 booths is going to staff those with like their best salespeople, right? Best
yeah,
marketers. Yeah, that's rich environment for our ICP, right? So what we'll do is like we'll attend, and they can't leave either. You go up to a booth, guess what? They're not like go away, like they have to talk to you, right? So then you get them their undivided attention for at least a couple minutes. Do a mutual
yeah.
pitch, and that's worked really well for us,
That's
right?
great. Again, back to events. Like we're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
going full
that's
circle.
been super strong, honestly. The interesting thing that we've come up too like recently is that like people are like, oh yeah, like I've heard of you guys, which is like really cool, right?
That's
Like
awesome.
yeah, I mean, so that's like the larger strategy. Again, that's like less measurable, but it's just like, can you build an audience? Can people start to recognize who you are and the problem you solve? And I've heard of you, right? So when you talk to them, they can place you, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what you do. Okay, interesting. Yeah, let's talk. I've
Yeah.
heard of you, because you're much more
I mean
likely to
that
talk to somebody that you've heard of, that you've heard the
sure.
name come up before, than like, what the hell does like Winely do, or like whatever.
Yeah. Oh man, I saw that firsthand when I left Starfish, which is a company that I think our global TAM was like 300 companies, and
Yeah,
went to Yahoo. Like everybody heard it. It was so easy to get meetings with CIOs at Yahoo because they just they knew who you were. They wanted to talk. But
yeah,
it sounds like, kind of going back, like you've got a lot of people who are in that like 20 to 30%. They don't know that they're sick yet. They're not quite looking at it, but they're at least like, oh, maybe I will have a headache at some point.
yeah,
I should keep Rob's name, in my back pocket. So when I get to that point, he's the first guy that I call. I
yeah.
think like that's
I
such
mean,
an important thing that,
yeah. I mean, a big thing that we'll see too is like we'll talk to people and they'll be like, "This is amazing," but we have other things going on right now. Or it's like these are the priorities
yeah,
we have. Like whatever, cool, right? Put them in your back pocket. You come back when they're ready, and you sell them then. I mean, I think a lot of times like you don't want to burn through your lead list. You got to be like very, very intelligent about it, because like once you burn that lead, like it's gone. Like they're not going
yeah,
to talk to you if they're not going to talk to you again. It's like, oh yeah, I talked to these guys months ago. I don't, whatever. Let's look at something else. They've already
yeah.
written them off.
Yeah, that's why I'm such a big fan of like just the soft touch. Once every couple of weeks, hey, here's what we're up to. Here's some success stories.
Yeah,
Call me when you're ready.
yep,
Um,
yep.
is it good that we're not on easy mode anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, right? Like how
Okay.
were we on? I mean, like if you think about the economics of like when we were on easy, let's say like I don't know, 2021, 2022, when like money was free, basically,
Yeah.
like is that healthy? Does that like are you just buying stuff just to buy stuff? Like, does any of this stuff actually work? Does it like are you making? I think like not that we're in a recession or whatever, but like we're in a recession, say within sales, where like it's no longer like the roaring 20s. Now it's like, okay,
Yeah.
austerity measures. You got to like go back to what works. You got to work harder. I think it's good. I think it's a huge opportunity at the very least. I think when you like the strategies that work best is like if you discover a strategy and that works and you're the only one that knows about it, like you have massive first mover advantage.
Yeah.
Right. As soon as everybody else discovers that strategy and they start doing the same thing, that strategy is no longer viable. And it's like works for basically everything, stocks or outbound strategy or like you name it, right? So you got to like try new stuff. And so I think like there's a huge, anytime things are stale like this, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And I think the losers are going to be the ones that just like keep either like one, keep trying to do the same thing, hoping that it works now,
Yeah.
despite all evidence to the contrary, or say, hey, we're spending too much on our SDR team and like they're not booking enough meetings to justify their costs. Like let's put like an AI SDR in place instead. Like there's no reason to think that that would work. Like why would that work? Like you're just like automating something that didn't work in the first place. That's not really the way to think about it.
But there is like an interesting thing there where you could go, okay, let's say I've got 10 SDRs. Do I replace them with an AI SDR and then use those 10 people to just now be my like event marketing people instead? And they go to the dinners, they host the regional events, they go to the big trade shows, and their job is just run around like crazy.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Absolutely. I think you have people that are, I mean, like they know your product, they know your ICP, they've made thousands of phone calls, they've seen what works, what doesn't. You don't just want to like jettison those folks. You gotta put them to work somewhere that works. It's your job to figure out like what works.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think having like in person, like moving more to like something actually in the pipeline, like in person sales? That's happening. Like it's starting to come back a little bit, but still predominantly like done over Zoom. Do you think we ever go back to that, or is that like another opportunity where the ones who do push?
Did we die? Did I lose you? Rob? CoreWeave? Hey, there we are. Rob?
Are we back? Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah,
I'm here.
I lost you for 10 or 12 seconds. Sorry, your question was you were going down the path of like in-person sales?
Yeah, like doing like in person, like flying to Columbus, Ohio to meet with Nationwide or like whatever versus Zoom.
I don't think that it's gone anywhere. Like my last 3 roles have been like heavy in-person sales, like get out, go to the office, press flesh, shake hands, kiss babies, do all that stuff you need to do. I think that it's harder to get people to buy into that. But I think for a big enough project, I absolutely want to get everybody around a conference room and figure out how to make it work. And this goes back to what we were talking about being like a project manager more than a used car sales guy. It's all right, how are we going to get a dozen people into a room? We did a deal at Sovos with a major airline. There's 40 people involved in the deal. And we flew up to, we flew out to their headquarters, met with, probably 2/3 of the team were in the room and the other third is on Zoom. But it was like, it could not have been done over Zoom. Like we were there for 8 hours, like going through the pitch and how we're going to make this happen and how to make it successful. We negotiated the deal there. Like it was a pretty intense day, but I don't think that goes away. I think it's just harder to justify. I think it's also more difficult because during COVID, everybody moved away. And now you've got people who are like, oh, you know what? Like my company's headquartered in Boston, but I live in Chapel Hill and my partner lives in Phoenix and the tech team is in Bangalore or whatever. Like all these people are like now all over the place. So it's a little bit more of a challenge to get like all of them together in a single office, but I don't think that's gone away at all. And I think that will continue to, I think that'll always continue to be there because it's way easier to build a relationship with somebody over dinner than it is over Zoom.
Yeah, and I think there's a huge advantage for the people that like push for that stuff right now versus like just insisting on Zoom,
100%.
Like if you're willing to 100%. Jump on a plane and get in front of somebody, like you'll build rapport. If your competition isn't doing that, like that's a massive advantage.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think that their competition is. And I think you can win a lot of deals there. The one challenge that we did have a problem with, we actually had this problem at Cloudinary, was that because people tend not to live in the region, it's harder to do regional events. And I think it's harder to do regional events because A, people don't live there, but B, I don't want to go to dinner on some random Tuesday night. Like I get invites to dinners up in the city all the time. I live in San Jose. I'm not driving to San Francisco on Tuesday night to be at a 6 o'clock dinner. It's like a 2-hour drive there. And then it's like, now I got to drive an hour home. I'm not doing that. Like it has to be a pretty special dinner and I'll get a hotel room or something, but
yeah, there has to be like
those are few and far between.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's definitely getting harder. I think that there's a lot of good salespeople out there who are trying to figure out this new environment, but they're like all good salespeople always, they're really good at being fluid. And as long as you can do that, you're going to thrive.
Do you think, so I came up in like my sales career predominantly actually on the solution side.
Okay.
Right. So where I'm going with this is like, there's the lone wolf salespeople, then there's the ones that, use their ecosystem around them. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to like pivot a little bit here, but like I see these like messages because I think of like solutions people more as like the ones actually doing the selling, and like the AE is playing quarterback and getting the right people in the room, and like the solutions people are the ones selling. And I've seen I saw like one post by somebody that got like over 1,000 likes where it's like, don't introduce your SE as the tech guy, right? Because when you do that, you're like ruining their credibility or something like that. Actually, I'm on the opposite side of that. I think that is
interesting,
right? Like you're not talking to just another salesperson here. You're talking to somebody who like actually knows what they're talking about. Now, if that SE does have the business acumen, all the better, right? Because they can manage that and they still have that trust. But like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, where have you been where you've worked alongside like an SE type? And how did you do that?
I mean, Mike Destine, who I worked with at Borland had great SEs. Mike Destine and Dave Plosky were like two of the best ones I've ever worked with. And they'd both gone on to be CEOs of companies because they were that person who, as a sales guy, I could just like completely 100% trust that if I wasn't in the room, that they could move the deal forward. And I think like those people are worth their weight in gold and should be promoted and given raises and all of that. I think that if you're an SE and your belief is like, oh, I'm the tech guy and I'm just going to come in and explain, features and bells and whistles, like that's a tough one. And I think that there's a lot of SEs out there that are like that. They're just like, hey, let me show you this other thing, and let me show you this other thing, and this other thing that I wanted to show you. And they just kind of like keep going through feature sets instead of like really figuring out what's the business driver for this. But those ones that can sit down and go like, okay, like I'm going to show you this because it's going to be valuable for you because of X.
Yeah.
Then like that person has instant credibility. If they're just like
feature dumping, that part I can, yeah. So okay, so I think feature dumping happens when there's no context, and so many times I've been like brought into a meeting. I'm like, who are we meeting with? What do they care about? Like, what do you want me to show? What do you want me to talk about? And then there's nothing. And I look in Salesforce, there's nothing. And then what do you do in that situation, right? Like you got to start with something,
right?
And see kind of like what sticks. You ask some questions, you figure it out. A lot of times, like you start to ask questions, and it's hard because like they don't necessarily know what you do. But that's a huge problem. I think like a really good SE, like a really good AE makes a really good SE. Like a really good AE will pull somebody, like pull an SE into a call, tell them why they're on this call, who they're meeting with, what the game plan is. I'm going to intro that I want you to talk about this because they have these problems, et cetera, right? Like, that I think that's like another thing that like a really good AE can do. Not everybody does that, but that context is like often like just up in their brain, right? And that's it. And it doesn't always get translated. And I think there's like a lot of these like handoff moments that happen in the sales cycle from like SDR to sales. There's a handoff moment from like sales to like SE. There's another handoff moment. And then like, of course, from like sales to CS, another handoff moment. And like the fumble rate on these like handoff moments is extremely way higher. Right. So how do you solve that?
I was going to ask you the same question. Like that's like I think like that's always, you know, you can set some rules in place and go, okay, like, hey, SDR, like you set up this meeting for me. Give me some background. But did he just agree to take a meeting, or does she have like a challenge? Was there anything that was of interest? Can you share with me the phone call? Like, what are the highlights of that call? Like, share that with me. I think if you're going in with an SE, like you have to be so right, like kind of going back to the analogy that you used as like a sales guy, like your job is the quarterback, right? Well, like the quarterback doesn't just show up on game day and like I'm just going to throw the ball around. Like I think like there's this like weird. I'm a huge believer, Rob, of practicing choreography. Like, and if you like talk to any sales rep that's gone into a big meeting with me, like we have rehearsed the shit out of that. Like we know every question that we're going to ask. We know, when they answer it this way, this is what our response is. If they answer it this way, this is what our response is. I'm going to talk for 5 minutes as the executive sponsor coming in here. Then you're going to talk for 20 minutes and you're going to give this presentation and let's go through and practice it. Then you're the SE, you're going to come in and you're going to do all of this stuff. Like, I think that any big meeting that you go into, if you're not practicing and choreographing like all of the events that are in there, it's going to be a flop. And like, I do think like too many salespeople just sort of show up on game day and they're like, I'll just like throw the football around and I'll give it to Chris Zach and Chris will take it and he'll run with it because he's a really good SE and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to, it's not fair to the SE. It's not fair to your company. You're just kind of like going in there and fucking it up if you don't have like a good game plan. And I think like most salespeople, I'm probably one of the few exceptions that really doesn't want any sports. Like a lot of salespeople like love sports. Like those guys fucking practice a lot.
Yeah.
They practice all the damn time so that on game day, like it is like things are going to go well, exactly the way that they planned it.
Yeah. I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, so it doesn't seem to be that no matter like how much practice they do that they're able to make things go well. But yeah, I think the metaphor is still apt. But yeah, I mean, I guess where I'm going with this is like there's this like context that's constantly dropped, right? In between. So like and this is like the promise of CRMs, right? It's like, hey, there's this thing where like you have a CRM, you should be able to go in there and like find all the information about like this customer, where the deal's at, how did they got here, what are their pain points, but it's like never ever there. It's never there.
No. I mean, I think that's what you guys do really well is like getting that important stuff in there. And I think like, and also like it shouldn't be up to my SE to like have to go scour through my notes and like, I was writing it down and I didn't get it in. So I just took a picture and I uploaded it. Now I got to go look at, like, I've got the worst handwriting in the world. So now you got to go figure that out. Maybe I was nice and I used some OCR to kind of clean it up, but that still looks like shit. Like that's not the SE's responsibility.
So get that. In Salesforce, where do you even keep notes? There's not even a notes field by default. Like they tried to integrate Quiver or like whatever that thing is that they bought, but like that was a total flop. And like even like the next step field, it's limited to like 240 characters. Like what sort of context can you get from that stuff?
Yeah, don't get me started on Salesforce. I do like there are like you can build a good notes field that's got 50,000 characters or something, like more than you'll ever need. Like you can add that into Salesforce pretty easily, but like, again, it's not Chris's responsibility or my SE's responsibility to sit there and scour through that, trying to go like, okay, like here on January 1st, Scott left a message, and on January 2nd, they talked for 2 minutes, scheduled another call. It's like, not Chris is like scouring through all this worthless stuff. Like my job as a sales guy, if I'm truly the quarterback, I got to sit down and like figure out what play do I want to run. And it has to be like, okay, Chris, like here's the scenario where, fuck, dude, I don't know anything about football, so I'm not going to use sports analogies. But like, here's the scenario.
Use a golf analogy. if you can. It's Ryder Cup.
Well,
You're with your
it's
team,
but it's
something like that.
it's like I've always been really good and have gotten into like individual. It's like team sports just do nothing for me, and maybe that's just like the ego in me that's just like I'm going to go out and win this on my own. But I think for me, it's like, okay, hey, Mr. Essie or Mrs. Essie, like this is where we, and I should be sitting down with them, like many like a week and a half, 2 weeks before like the big meeting. And like at Dynamic Signal, we called it the big show. And like we had it really well choreographed. Like this is like, okay, we're going to sit down. No, we're going to have a 1 hour meeting to just talk about like, why are they talking to us? What do we want to accomplish? Yeah. What does good look like leading out of this? Like, what's the expectation that the client is going to say? Like we have that meeting. Then we sit down, we have a couple of meetings of like, okay, let's choreograph this whole thing. Like, let's go build the deck. Let's,
okay,
be super detailed.
Can I ask something? Because I absolutely love this. And I remember like when I first started, like early 2010s or like whatever, when I first started, I remember like we used to do stuff like that. Now it's almost like because sales has moved to Zoom, it's like back to back to back to back meetings. Like you're managing 40 opportunities. If you're managing 20 to 40 opportunities, when the hell do you have time to get the whole team together to like plan at that level? Like how do you do that? I mean,
that's part of why you got to do it.
Like you can't, right?
Well, or you figure it out, right? It's like, hey, look, like I'll give you like a good example. We just went and pitched somebody. I'll use the Sonos example. Like a deal that we did where there was 40 people in the room, like it ended up being like a 2.7 million ARR deal. Like, it's a big deal, like for any company. Like, I don't care what company you are, 2.7 million in ARR is like, that's a legit SaaS deal. And, you figure out how to make the time. And like, you just, at that level, the CEO's involved, the CRO's involved, your regional manager, like everybody's involved.
Yeah.
And, they're going to figure out how to prioritize it for you. And it's like, oh, if I'm working on a $2.5 million ARR deal, or I'm working on a $40,000 ARR deal, like 40,000 is going to lose that deal all day long. I'm not going to spend the time on it. Unfortunately, I'll allocate it to somebody else.
Yeah.
But if I'm a good salesperson, I really want to take a swing at like a $2.7 million deal. You got to kind of be serious about it and make it a higher priority.
This gave me a really good feature idea, actually.
Oh, good. All right.
Okay, so we don't have this right now. We have like meeting prep, right? So like before you get on a meeting, if you're a participant in that meeting, they're like, we'll send you a message, or it's like in our UI too, in like the calendar view, where it's like, here's who you're meeting with, here's the status of the opportunity, here's the game plan, here are the deal gaps, ask these questions, we'll fill those gaps automatically. What would be almost an even better version of that is to have some sort of like a virtual like planning room, or what would you call that? Like a war room, something like that, right? Where it's like, hey, we got this meeting. Like, Scott, you're on it. Like, Steve, you're on it. Like, here's your role. Here's your role. Here's the outcomes. To like start that conversation and like bring the context there, and then allow people to talk. I think that's interesting.
I mean, that's kind of like I mentioned earlier, like doing the project plans and like busting out Gantt charts and stuff. Like that's kind of what you're building there is like, a deeper level of that. And like the notes that he has in his Gantt charts are outrageous, but like it's good because he's telling everybody, this is what I want you to do here. And that way, like everybody knows, right? You don't just show up at the arena and put on a concert. Like it's, I remember, I think it was Ray Romano. I was watching him getting interviewed. I do like comedy a lot, and watching him get interviewed. And I like the preparation that goes into comedy more than I like the actual jokes. But I remember him saying, we work really hard to make it look really easy.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Comedy Cellar in New York, where they actually like prepare and like practice their stuff? Like every time I go there, there's some like massive comedian that just like shows up out of the blue to practice the material. It's super fun.
Yeah, that's what they do. I've never seen that at Comedy Cellar, but I've seen that down in LA where they do it. Some of the clubs down there. And it's like, you've got to like stand there in front of everybody and go like, okay, is this joke stupid or not? Like I was lucky enough, and I've done stand up a couple of times, and like I probably had 20 hours of material for my 5-minute set. And I was just talking to everybody like, hey, is this Rob? Do you think this is funny? Like, let me deliver it a couple of different ways, and you get everybody's feedback, and then you go, okay, like Rob thought this one was the best, and you start like just gathering what the masses think is funniest. But I think like it's, you have to, to your point, when you're setting up these big meetings, it's like, okay, here's what I want each of these people to do, and you're completely choreographing the entire experience so that it comes across as looking really polished and very spontaneous.
Oh, I've been on the opposite side of that, where the AE will invite like the CEO, the CTO, the SE, the SA, like their manager. There's 6 people on the call. Nobody knows who the hell is doing what. And so you start the call and it's like super awkward, and like you're sitting there looking like, okay, like who's starting this thing? Who's doing this?
Yeah.
So anyways, I know we're out of time.
It's terrible.
It's awful. There's ways to solve that. We'll get there. We'll get there in the next episode maybe. But I do want to tease the next episode. So next topic, do we still
need I like this topic. I don't think we do. I think you and I might be perfectly aligned on that.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we'll join for our next one. We'll do this, in a week? Something like that. We'll figure it out.
Cool. This is a lot of fun. Absolutely, Rob. Appreciate it. Scott. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Take care.